In episode 5 of the Dres ring space station, Kerbin forgot the sea and the atmosphere, we built the most Kerbal rocket ever and also destroyed the space station for science. Hello and welcome everyone, my name is Pietro, welcome to episode 5 of the Dres ring space station. Today we are gonna build and launch and take to the space station inside of the rings of Dres the refueling module for the lander that we are gonna use to perform other landing missions on the surface of the planet with the crew that we already have there and with the new crews that we're gonna launch in the following episodes, since we're gonna have to start making a proper rotation of the crew. So you can see me here building this refueling module and also being a little optimistic, to be fair. So I put a big tank of the ones of the medium size, like the 2.5 meters ones, and I put it on top of the same usual launcher that we have been using for also the other episodes of this series. By the way, if you are new to the channel and if you just arrived here in episode 5, make sure to go and watch the others, because it's there that we explain more how we built the rocket, how we built the space station, what's going on, and how also to get to Dres in more detail. So you can see me here remaking the struts, because for some reason sometimes they just decide to unstrut and not be present when we are about to launch. 12,419 meters per second of delta V on this launcher. Let's line up the planets as we now are accustomed to do. So we need to put Dres at about 86 degrees in front of Kerbin, which is kind of difficult to understand how many degrees they are, and I'm actually continuing to get it wrong, but oh well, we are gonna try and launch in this moment because more or less that was the angle. And as you can see, we are illuminated by the sun, and there is no atmosphere, there is no sea. Kerbin forgot a few of the things this day, and so yeah, this is it. Here we can see Kerbin from the upper atmosphere and still without water and without the atmosphere, which is kind of weird. We see that the sun becomes blue to have a background for the water that should be there, but it's not. And yeah, the launch did not go as well as planned. I did not have enough delta V for that launch, and so I just decided to revert back to the vehicle assembly building, and with some struggles. You saw me there not being able to attach the engine for some reason, but yeah, I created this new upper stage with some hydrogen there and the big hydrogen motor, and hoping that it would increase the delta V enough to get to Dres with enough delta V that it will be actually worth to use this tank for the refueling, because in the previous attempt I would have gotten to Dres with like 2000 meters per second of delta V, like half of the fuel inside of the tank, which was not exactly what I was hoping to obtain with this launch. Therefore, this is the rocket that we are gonna try and launch now. I'm obviously taking it up from the floor. I don't know how it is in KSP2. In Kerbal 1, if you had your rocket clipping through the floor, then it was gonna be set at a given height by the game, which was suboptimal for the launch. I prefer to have it just a few meters above the surface, as I did in this moment here. We have some more delta V. The delta V calculator was bugged, as we are accustomed for it to be in KSP2, and we couldn't do anything about it. So yeah, it was the moment of the launch. This time there is the atmosphere, this time there is also the sea. Let me speed up the footage a little bit, and you see that it is a wobbly boy. The rocket was wobbling around quite a lot, but it kept stable for more than what I expected to. Obviously this is due to the presence of the various engines and the couplers, one on top of the other, that do not have enough strength, enough rigidity between their couplings. And so yeah, we flipped out of control at about 4,000 meters from the surface of Kerbin. And so I tried to flip around and reactivate the engines, hoping for it to work out, but it did not. We kept on flipping, and so I just decided to check the staging to see if everything was correct, and then we built a Kerbal Space Program rocket. Instead of putting all those fuel tanks one on top of the other and being unstable, we put a big one with a lot of hydrogen inside, and so we cut away from our second stage that we got accustomed to in the last few episodes, and we have instead this gigantic XL ball of hydrogen with our new big hydrogen engine pushing us and giving us thousands and thousands of meters per second of delta V. Actually, the delta V calculator told me that I still had like 13 Ks, but probably it forgot about the presence of this stage, which, as you can see there, has more than 5,000 meters per second of delta V that can get us into orbit at around Kerbal, in the orbit that we need to get to around Kerbal, so the orbit that is gonna take us from Kerbal to Dres, and then afterwards also have more than enough delta V to perform all of the maneuvers that we need to do inside of the sphere of influence of Dres, like circularizing our orbit, changing the plane, getting to the rendezvous orbit with the Dres ring space station, and then finally docking to it. In fact, we are gonna have so much delta V that we are gonna get rid of the hydrogen stage by deorbiting it and making it impact the surface of Dres. Here we are waiting for an orbital sunrise. Look at this, so beautiful. I really enjoy the music, the visuals that there are in KSP2. My hardware doesn't like them so much since, yeah, as you can see again from the top right, from the usage of my RAM and my GPU up there, the CPU is not so used, but because the game mainly runs on just one core, and that's why also it is as laggy as it is. And you can see that the FPS are, yeah, oscillating a lot, but never going that much higher than 30 FPS during gameplay. Here we are performing the maneuver that's gonna take our apoapsis of the orbit around Kerbal at the height of Dres, and then as usual we are gonna have to perform some more other correction maneuvers like we do in real life. I mean, we do like we humans do in real life while sending spacecrafts to the outer solar system. Let's not forget about the extension of the antenna, since we still do not know why sometimes the game requires us to have antennas and sometimes it doesn't. So let's just deploy it. Since I put it to counterbalance the RTG that I put on the other side of the spacecraft so that it was more stable. Here you can see me playing around with the maneuver planner. This time I messed up the launch window, since as I said previously, there is no launch window planner inside of the game, and it was really hard, but luckily enough we had thousands of meters per second of delta V available to us. Therefore I could just play around with the maneuver, trying to get the encounter as close as possible until we actually got an entrance inside of the sphere of influence of Dres. Unfortunately, to the cost of lots of delta V, but that we can afford for this case. Which actually makes me think that for the next future I'm gonna use this version of the rocket with the hydrogen upper stage instead of with the liquid fuel upper stage, just because it gives us so much more delta V capabilities that allow us to have these errors in the launch window, and also make sure that also heavier payloads can get to destination around Dres without problems. So here we are performing this change of inclination so that we are gonna get in the same orbital plane around the sun as Dres is. Obviously then there is the necessity for more adjustments to make sure that we get an encounter. We still, since this footage comes from before the 16th of March 2023, we still do not have the trajectory drawn inside of the sphere of influence of a planet, so we can just see our orbit around Kerbal, and when I'm gonna zoom on to Dres we are not gonna see a trajectory there, we are just gonna see the rings of entrance and exit, so we still have to eyeball it a little bit, and as I said, trying to line those two circles up with a diameter of the sphere of influence, and more or less I succeeded also this time, and now we can actually perform the maneuvers that are gonna take us to slow down enough to enter into orbit around Dres. Since we had so much delta V, I wanted to experiment a little bit with orbital mechanics, so what I did here was just slowing down my velocity as much as I could, trying to see in which trajectory I would end up around Dres. And here you see that my velocity went completely horizontal. Let's say it was between the blue and orange part of the navel, and that exactly brought us in this kind of circular orbit, super high high above Dres. There you can see that it takes actually 1 year to orbit around Dres at this height and at this velocity, since we are so far away and we are going so slowly. So yeah, I decided to create a maneuver plan, obviously just in front of where we were, to then lower our orbit and get it into an orbit that has a low enough periapsis that it intercepts the trajectory of the Dres ring space station. So yeah, as I was saying, the next episodes are gonna be recorded on the newest patch, the 0.1.1 that just got released and fixed a lot of bugs that we used to encounter. For example, what we are gonna struggle with at the end of this episode is gonna be the attempt of going to land onto the surface of Dres and the incapability of undocking without having all the crew killed, which luckily enough with the new update has now been resolved, and we do not have to struggle with that kind of problem anymore. So here you see me that while I was trying to change the inclination of our orbit, since we were going so slowly and we were so far away from the planet, I actually managed to stay a little too much in the direction of the prograde rather than staying on the direction in which I needed to aim for, doing just the change of inclination, and therefore we ended up on an escaping trajectory that then we had to slow down and bring back into orbit around Dres. From here we lower the apoapsis again to try and get our orbit in an elliptical orbit that intersects the orbit of the Dres ring space station in 1 or 2 points, so that we are gonna cross its orbit and be able to see if during that closest approach or those closest approaches we are gonna be at a relatively low relative velocity and at a relatively small relative distance. Sorry for all the relatives, I should have phrased that better, but I guess I'm just gonna keep it because maybe it's funny, I don't know. And so here it was the moment finally of getting rid of our trustworthy hydrogen upper stage that took us all the way from Kerbin to here with plenty of delta V still left there, so meaning that we could have brought even a bigger refueling tank, but it's enough to have a few landings, at least I guess that 4 or 5 more landings on the surface of Dres we can do with the fuel that we managed to get through. It was super hard to turn around, try to get the inclination as close to 0 as possible, and at the same time lowering the periapsis of the orbit so that we would not leave orbital debris around the space of Dres. But I guess that around Dres it's not that much of a problem having just one engine going around, since there are gigantic rocks flying around inside of its rings. But yeah, you got the point. We don't want to put artificial stuff in orbit around the Dres that is uncontrollable and that therefore it's debris. So yeah, that's what we did. We deorbited it and then we went into orbit with our rocket stage, with our refueling stage alone, and used that and its propulsion module to get into an orbit that was gonna take us in a close approach to the space station. Here I decided to quick load, trying to see if that would bring the rings back, because as you can see there's just this black shadow, this black lining in the sky where we are flying, but we don't see the rocks, we don't see the dust, which is kind of weird, and I guess that I'm gonna have to restart the game or go back to the main menu to make them appear, but since I was there playing and stuff, I didn't wanna bother to lose time for that, therefore I just kept on with the rendezvous maneuver, so slowing down our relative velocity, trying to have the prograde vector still pointing at the space station, to which I switch here and we see that the Kerbals are all alive and doing well. I try to turn around a little the space station to help me with the docking so that I do not have to make a fly around to get lined up with the docking port to which I wanna dock, which is the one not opposite to the living module, but the other one, therefore not even the one where the lander is right now, since in the next episodes we are gonna bring a new living module, a new habitative module there where the lander is, and we're gonna start docking the lander on the other side, so to counterbalance, let's say, the fuel tank module that is what we are docking right now, that is definitely heavier than the habitative modules. And so yeah, we're gonna have them, let's say, separated in this way, and then maybe see if there's gonna be the necessity of adding new modules, like some new science modules or stuff like that. Also, if the parts are gonna get added to Kerbal Space Program 2. But there you have it, another module added to the Dres space station that is now expanding more and more, and also has refueling capabilities for its landers, so that we can try and land again onto Dres, go on and exploring the various different craters and also the ridges and canyons that there are on Dres, which is what we're gonna do in the next episode, because now some struggle it's gonna happen. In fact, after the refueling of the lander, the deactivation of the various engines, so that we are sure that if we hit shift by error we do not start flying away, I refueled the lander, went on to put a new crew inside of the lander, trying to put the Kerbal that we left on the space station in the previous landing attempt, and I noticed something. There is Bill Kerman, for some reason, is now on the Dres space station. No one took him here, but he decided to spawn inside of it, and therefore he's gonna go. Oh well, he's not gonna go on Dres, because again, by undocking, everything exploded, the crew died, and so I had to reload again. So we have Bill now. We're gonna have to set up a rescue mission, because we don't have enough space for all the Kerbals inside of the crew transfer vehicle, because that one has just 5 seats, since 5 were the Kerbals that we took here in the first place, when instead now there is also Bill. And here I try to experiment a little bit, understanding how and why the lander was exploding, was getting damaged while I was trying to undock it. And so you can see me trying to interact with the Kerbal from the outside, trying to get a Kerbal inside of the crew transfer vehicle that I'm gonna then use to try and push away the lander from the space station, because right there in that situation you can see that it is undocked, or at least it's not completely docked, because it is wobbly, so there is some kind of connection but not the proper one. In fact, I cannot try to undock it anymore, because the game considers it as if it was already undocked, which is kind of weird. So yeah, you can see me here trying to bonk into it to see if that could help, but well, yeah, unfortunately it really did not, and I was all out of ideas, like I had no clue of what I could try to do, because the first attempt, in the first time in which I succeeded doing so, it was because I did not decouple the transfer stage of the lander before undocking it, and that make it work. But now we had to undock that stage to decouple it, so there is no way I can solve this, and I was hoping that it was just not undocking because it got decoupled the transfer stage while docked. Instead, apparently it was not that the problem. Therefore I just try to undock everything and then spin around the station, and you can see that the lander is still controlled by it and it spins together with the station. It didn't make any sense, so not even undocking everything solved the problem. Time warping didn't do anything either, and therefore yeah, here we are with the Dres space station that for this experiment got completely destroyed and still did not obtain to undock the lander to go for another landing attempt. But yeah, so like with this, we're gonna bring this episode to an end. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you may consider leaving a like and subscribing. It really means and helps a lot. I wish you a good day and catch you guys next time in the next patch with a fix for this thing. Bye bye.